Hello, everyone. So we get to the part that we're going to talk about a very trending topic and has been a growing business for the past 10 years, and actually now represents a huge business, and the market is 7 billion plus industry that has been capturing all the attention in the shelves of the health food stores and for wellness protocols, and those are prebiotics. And I know there's a lot up there about that, and it's a little bit difficult to untangle all the information that we get, and definitely there's a very consistent evidence that they work to a certain extent, that they are useful for promoting some benefits in our gut terrain, in our microbiome. But that being said, there's a whole analysis that should be done before we even decide what we're going to be using. And my mindset always is go for the most natural pathway to incorporate any of these microbes in your body, and we'll talk about that too. So what is a probiotic? Probiotic by definition is any source of beneficial, non-beneficial bacteria that can be incorporated in your body. So it doesn't mean that it has to be oral. It doesn't mean that it has to be a capsule. It can be in a food form. It can be also delivered in enema base. It could be, and it could be from multiple other pathways. So it's not necessarily just a capsule you buy from a bottle that comes in a bottle that you buy in any store, and that's what you're taking. That's one type of probiotics. But the common line here is that you should be getting beneficial, non-beneficial bacteria. So it means that bacteria that are known to and well researched that they are bringing benefits to our body. Now, bacteria is not the only type of microbes that we can denominate or define as probiotics. We have fungi that are also beneficial for us, and we know that there's many other things that can be beneficial regarding the microbiome world. But mostly all the probiotics we see are based on bacteria or fungi. Now, what is a prebiotic? A prebiotic is food that usually can be digested by our own cells, but is fundamentally nutritious for the microbes, and in this term preferably for bacteria. And that comes with a huge family of oligosaccharides, and you will see multiple kinds and combinations also, and that's something that we'll discuss a little bit more in a few minutes. Now, there's also some products that they're called symbiotics, and symbiotics is just a combination. So whenever a company decides to put beneficial bacteria in a bottle, in a capsule, and then also put in the food for the bacteria in the same capsule, well, they're putting both pro and prebiotics together. That's called symbiotic. And then we have postbiotics, and postbiotics are byproducts made by microbes that are important and relevant for our own health, and they're also manufactured in some way, so they put it also in a supplement, in a product, and that's how you get a postbiotic. It's just the end product that was supposed to, or is supposed to be made by a specific microbe. And also that's another huge field in the market right now. How we choose a probiotic? And that's one of the main questions. How we decide, okay, we're going to pick this one or that one. And we see that most of the probiotics they're available in the market, they come from 2 or 3 genuses of bacteria. Mostly you will see that all of them, they have lactobacillus genuses, or they will have bifidobacterium, and some of them they have some streptococcus, and that's pretty much how they blend the combinations. Now, all these bacteria are definitely, they belong to our gut, but they represent just a minuscule part of what our microbiome is. So when there's a statement coming from any company saying, yeah, we are going to remodel your microbiome, it's very unlikely. I mean, it's very unlikely that just with a few genuses in a world of 150 or more genuses in the microbiome, you will be able to remodulate the entire microbiome. This is very, very unlikely to be happening in our gut. But they can provide useful information, and this is where I link what we spoke about in the previous podcast about the difference between the actual bacteria and what is inside that bacteria or any microbe in general. So you can have a lactobacillus A, a lactobacillus B, and lactobacillus C, and by shape, size, color, whatever you can use for defining them in that genus, they will pretty much look all alike, and because of that you might say, okay, well, this is the same thing and should provide the same benefit. And that's the tricky part, because they were sourced from some place. They were sourced from an animal, they were sourced from a plant, they were sourced from soil, and depends of where they were coming from, they will have a different impact in your body. So let's say, for example, that a bacteria was growing in this cow stomach. Definitely it's not going to have the same impact or the same amount of information that you will find in something that's more related to humans, because that bacteria was growing in an environment that has different type of conditions. There are different environmental conditions there, and when you put that in your body, it will try to adjust to those conditions, because that's where the bacteria was growing. That's where this bacteria was learning. Let me move this a little bit. Thank you. And because of that, you will get different results. Now, the main pathway of inoculation that we know was the soil. That was one of the main pathways we used for getting our microbiome and our microbes, our probiotic bacteria, when we stop breastfeeding. So as soon as we stop breastfeeding, because that's our maternal source of microbes, you start getting all these microbes from soil. And I think that's one of the most natural, most ancestral ways for getting this microbial load from beneficial microbes, beneficial bacteria, with the right type of information, and they will have a modulation effect that is going to have an impact in your health. Now, there's other pathway that we use a lot every single minute of our lives, and that's breathing. And we know there's a vast amount of bacteria and other microbes that are living in the air, and they're floating there, and it's not minus. This is a minuscule number. It's actually very, very large numbers, and they are provided also constant inoculation and information to our body. But the conversation actually is, where is my probiotic bacteria coming from? Now, this lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, I'm not saying that they're fundamentally wrong. They actually work, but there's a different way they work. When you get a soil-based bacteria, when you get a spore-forming bacteria, that bacteria can actually resist, because that's the reason why they make spores in the first place. The bacteria goes into a spore form to become more resilient, more resistant to different type of environmental aggravations. And when it finds a suitable environment, it can actually evolve into a full-grown, full-developed bacteria, and that's how they can resist also when you take them in the probiotic form in the capsule, the stomach acid and any other type of attacks. And then when they arrive to the right place, they can evolve and develop as a full-grown bacteria, and that's how they can actively and in a live form, they can modulate changes, positive changes in your microbiome. Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium, they're not genuses of bacteria that are able to form spores, so they miserably die in the process of getting absorbed in the digestive tract. But that doesn't mean that they're not useful. In some ways, the microbiome, with its own intelligence, which is amazing, can utilize that genetic material that was carried by that microbe, and therefore utilize that to improve whatever functionality it needs to be improved. So it's a great tool that we have in order to make our microbiome better and more resilient over time. Now, and that's also is the piece of relevance that is telling you that actually the actual microbe is not the issue. It's just a carrier. Is the mailman for bringing information to your house, but the actual information comes in forms of letters or this DNA material that is utilized and absorbed by your own microbiome. And there's a selective process, and there are multiple things that are happening there, but that's amazing. So usually what I like is blending, and I do check my sources. I think there's nothing wrong to even mail the company and ask them, like, where are you sourcing your probiotics? Are you sourcing your probiotics from a mass lab that has no information there? So they're growing in a petri dish and they're being fed, and they have no resilience or adaptation whatsoever, because they have no genetic information. They were never resistant to the attack of the acid of the stomach. They were never interacting with the immune system. They have no clue what to do. And whenever they get into your body, they're pretty much dumb and naive. They don't do anything, and then they die right away, and their genetic material was pretty much useless, or that was taken from human breast milk or from a specific animal, and that had some challenges. It's had some information that can be useful for us. So the source is really important, and the genetic material that is carrying that microbe actually is huge for determining what type of benefits it's going to provide to you. And so you can call the company and I want to buy this probiotic, or I've been taking this probiotic for quite a while, and I want to see where they're sourcing the probiotics from, and you can check that, and that's completely fair. I think that's important. Now, we never had the same type of bacteria over and over for years and years and years. So there's a rotation, there's a cycling effect. So we should be cycling our microbes in the same way we cycle everything else. The same way that is very beneficial for us to eat seasonally and cycle our nutrients. And the same way that creates resilience and adaptation for our health, that the same way we are providing resilience to our microbiome. So that definitely is something that we need. And that's when probiotics foods, they're amazing for providing this, because those are sources of naturally occurring probiotics, and they come in a package. They come with the food, they come with the prebiotics, they come with nutrients, we're fermenting there. If they're done right, all the fermented foods that they are coming with probiotics, I'm talking about organic, well-made, without additives or any other ingredients. And those will find sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, but so many things that kefir, even yogurt, that so many things that you can find in the market that are fermented and they have natural occurring microbes there. That's where you get a lot of information, useful information for your body. Now, also they need to be cycled, and also this source of their own microbes, their microbes they're using for making a fermented food is actually important too. So again, everything comes with the source and quality, and that's how you have to check. And don't really believe right away the label of the product. Oh, this bacteria will arrive alive. It will make your microbiome 10 times better. It's just going to make a huge modification. It's not. It takes time. It takes consistency and a right plan to actually make this better. Now, prebiotics, if we even acknowledge that anything really gets absorbed or digested directly by our own cells, and everything that we eat is modulated, is metabolized and synthesized and digested and fermented and broken down enzymatically by bacteria, I think we can say with a lot of confidence that anything is a prebiotic. Now, there's different type of nutrients that are providing more, they're providing more benefits to your body and to your microbiome than others. And regarding that, of course, we know that fibers are the main prebiotic. So fibers, top one. And when we come to the discussion of what we should be eating to make our microbiome better, well, easy. 70% of your microbiome eats fiber. So what your plate should look like, 70% of your plate should look like fiber. Because that's the important part. If you feed your microbiome, you're actually feeding the microbes that are going to make all these byproducts you need to perform, to be optimal, to be healthy, and that's what you want. So your plate should look like 70% fiber. And the rest could be healthy fats and proteins, but mostly we need fiber in our diet. And we definitely don't have enough fiber. The typical average American diet will provide not more than 15 grams of fiber, and we know ancestrally we had more than 200. And we definitely start thriving when we raise those numbers. I always ask my patients, please go at least up to 30 to 50 grams of fiber. And of course, sometimes you have to build yourself to get that amount, but it's super beneficial. And I know that everyone will be benefit from getting a high amount of fiber. Now, besides fiber, of course, we need other nutrients, and I mentioned before, fats and protein, and those are our main prebiotics. But also we can put combinations of oligosaccharides from different sources, and those are going to feed, will do a target feeding to a specific bacteria. Now, there's a risk in this. If you put isolated oligosaccharides, let's say, for example, you use one of the most commonly used is inulin, and inulin feeds a specific amount of types of bacteria. You can create a nutritional disbalance. You're feeding too much some groups and you're not feeding accordingly the other groups, and then you're empowering and making them grow more than they should. So nutrition regarding the microbiome should be in balance, and that means that even the prebiotic in the capsule should have more than one type of oligosaccharide in order to be more efficient, more fair, more balanced in the feeding process of the microbiome. And that could never be our only source of fiber or nutrients to the microbiome, but definitely fiber in the natural pathways. It should be eating salads, healthy grains, legumes, all those nutrients, they should be our main part of our prebiotic diet, and then we can support that if needed with a prebiotic. And definitely, most of the modern society will be benefit from getting a good comprehensive target prebiotic as well. So you can put both in combination, but definitely food is your first line of action. That's the first part that you're going to be utilizing for making your microbiome better. So we know now probiotics, source, most important, prebiotics, balanced, and diet in the first place. We know the difference between some bacteria that will die, and we can use the information still, spore-forming bacteria, soil-based probiotics that they provide more active modulation, and they can actually have a surveillance effect in our body. They come alive and they check the system and see what's too high, what's too low, and they rearrange the numbers accordingly. That's a beautiful pathway they work with, and I think that's why they were our main source of probiotic bacteria. And again, breathing. But if you don't go out there, if you don't go outside, if you don't walk in the park, you don't go out to the beach, you don't move around in different type of environments, definitely you're not going to be inoculating a diversity of microbes that you need in order to be more resilient and more adaptable. So definitely, if you're just moving from your work to your home and back and forth the entire week, and then on the weekend you stay at home just watching TV, or if you have that type of sedentary life, it's very unlikely you're going to have an optimal diversity in your microbiome. You need to move around. You need to breathe. You need to get those pathways activated. So that's super important. Now, postbiotics, we have different types. I think that could be a separate conversation. I just wanted to share what they are and how can be utilized, and sometimes in the process of optimizing our microbiome, some way we can include some byproduct that we should be making in order to make you feel better. And sometimes that can actually make your microbiome better for making that byproduct you were lacking of or you were deficient because you're adjusting some conditions. But always keep in mind that most of our byproducts are very unique to ourselves, even though they can have the same name in the label. Let's say, for example, butyrate or some enzymes. We make a very unique version of that in their very unique amount regarding our necessities. And sometimes, even though we can be deficient, supplementing them is not going to make exactly the same thing. It's not going to activate the same pathway in the same modality than our actual own byproducts that we should be making. So there's a very unique singularity in the things we make, and when we supplement them, even though they might seem the same thing, they have the same names, they're not really the same. So careful with that, especially try to compensate what you're not making by putting too much of these end byproducts of the microbiome, because I don't think that's the way to go. I think that at the end, what we have to do is sustain the balance and the health of our microbiome, and from that standpoint, we should be getting all our byproducts and in the right amounts, in the right time, etc. And of course, we have a lot of aggravations that are massively damaging our microbiome, and that's why we have to take extra care for this. And that's how it's so important right now to know what we're doing, know about what the microbiome is, and how we can keep it healthy. And again, probiotic foods, fermented foods, hopefully homemade, that will be the best, and using a comprehensive protocol of probiotics and prebiotics. And there's something else that I was leaving outside, but that is not pre or pro, is just something else. Usually soil-based bacteria, soil bacteria, they were utilizing some molecules that we find on soil that are useful for communication purposes and balancing. And there's a lot of interaction that occurs with bacteria in the soil that is mediated by the specific molecules. And so soil and soil-based products containing these molecules, and there's a huge variety of them, and fluvic acid, human compounds. In Ayurvedic medicine, they have multiple types of them, and they can provide the substrate, the network for the intercommunication between cells, our own cells, and bacteria. So that's definitely something that we want to incorporate, because we stop having an interaction, a direct interaction with the soil for 100 years or more. And that was completely natural to us. We were grabbing the food from the soil ourselves, and we were getting soil with our foods, and we were not triple washing and sterilizing everything that we were eating. So when we stopped doing that, that was completely natural for us. We stopped grabbing those beautiful molecules that were incorporated naturally in the soil that are necessary for connecting the pathways of your own bacteria and your microbes and your cells, and we start this beautiful communication. So sometimes you can have all the good guys, all the right guys in your microbiome. We have a good diversity, you have a good balance in your microbiome, but if you don't have the ways for communicating your bacteria efficiently, it's not going to work that much. So that's something that we fundamentally disconnected from, and I think that that's one of the things that is one of the missing pillars that we should be incorporating in our probiotic, prebiotic diet and lifestyle. And we want to sustain the health of the microbiome. We definitely need that as a piece of the puzzle. So that's another part that definitely is fundamental for me and for everyone who wants to get healthier in that side. I don't want to talk about brands right now. I don't want to talk about specific products and formulations. That definitely, I leave that question open. You can DM me, you can message me, and we can talk about that more specifically. But I just want to cover the basics right now, and how we can choose, how we can know what we're putting in our mouth, and what benefits we could expect from one product versus the other, and what's the difference between one or the other. Next time, we'll like to talk a little bit about protective measures, how we can protect our microbiome, what measures we can do, what actionable measures we can take in our daily lives in order to protect our microbiome, become more resilient, and especially deal with all these aggravants that we have in this world right now. So definitely that will be next conversation in the next podcast where I will be posting. So we'll be seeing you there.